Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Brian Hogue. Welcome to another week of Chiller Chat. Now tonight we are going to be discussing Star Wars. I'll tell you why. Because now this is being recorded live, okay? But you will be seeing it if you're watching stream TV, if you're watching television. You'll be seeing this on May 4th. Of course, May 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and call my guest, Nate Ragon, and we're going to get started with talking Star Wars. But before we do, we got to do the intro. Brad says, it's Chiller Chat Live with Brian Hogue, starring Brian Hogue, and now here's Brian. Corpus says, and away we go. So keep interacting, folks. I do appreciate that. And let's see if we can get Nate on the phone here. All right, here we go.
Hello.
Hello, Nate. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'm just putting your picture up. Now you're official. You're my official guest for tonight.
Awesome.
And we're going to be talking about Star Wars.
That's exciting for the most part.
For the most part. I've been, we talked about, we did our Last Jedi movie review last year, and then I think it's kind of fitting right now that we do this when we're doing it, because this will be featured not only on May 4th, but of course the trailer to The Rise of Skywalker just recently came out. Did you see the trailer?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
I was impressed by it. I know that it was, like a teaser, just a teaser trailer, so it didn't show much, but
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was what I expected, but I kind of expected to get excited by it because it's Star Wars. Like, how can you not be excited by it?
Yeah. I very much enjoyed hearing Emperor Palpatine's laugh at the end.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping to see him again. I hope it's not like a hologram or something. I want to see the Emperor back.
Right.
So and just if you're wondering about this, some of you out there, like how could they bring him back? I will say this: there was a from Dark Horse Comics, there was a series, there was a storyline called Dark Empire, and it actually had the Emperor coming back through his energy field leaving his body when he was thrown down the shaft in the Death Star. And it went into one of his clones, where he had a cloning facility. So it was kind of a neat idea. So I'm sure with just a little bit of tweaking in those ideas along that line, they'll be able to bring him back with no problem.
I hope so.
That would be cool. Okay, Raymond says, may the force be with Jack Shadow. I'm reading some of these comments. And then Corpus says, so how many old versus new guard do we have here? That's a good question. I think we'll find out along the way here tonight, Corpus, with some of the comments. And now, let's see. This episode, I explained to the viewers, will be featured on May 4th. And that, I don't know if you knew about this, Nate, but I had to look this up. I didn't know this. The meaning behind Star Wars Day, or why it was picked as May 4th, because it wasn't released that day on 1977. But the reason,
which is the popular myth, the rumor behind it.
Yeah, and I actually, because I was thinking, I kind of was going along with that. Like, okay, I'll buy that, May 4th. Okay, I knew it was in May of 1977, but it seemed to me, as weird as this, of all the things to remember, it just seemed like it was closer toward the end of the month. But it actually was, I had to write this down because I just couldn't believe. First said by Margaret Thatcher the day she took office as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on May 4th, 1979. Isn't that something?
Wow. Yeah, I did not know that either.
That I totally did not see that coming. But that's where we get May 4th, and then it was later called, much later, started to be called Star Wars Day. So just a little bit of trivia for all you viewers, and for me, I didn't know that today either. So
I didn't either.
okay, now on we go. This is a. I know you're a big Star Wars fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm sure many of our viewers are big Star Wars fans. We, you and I, and some of the people that I know, certainly had our letdown with The Last Jedi. Although I know people who enjoy that movie, and I hope that they can. I hope that they can kind of improve on the storyline going forward. What do you think?
They have to. I think they absolutely have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. As far as story writing goes, obviously the second installment in this, the Last Jedi, in this new trilogy was. It just, I think what gets a lot of people, and I don't want to rehash, the movie review and trashing The Last Jedi, although I should. No, I won't do that. But I think, I don't know. Let me ask you that. I was going to save this toward the end, but I want to ask you right now. What do you think? What would it take for you to redeem this, or to save this storyline? What would it take for you? Do you have any idea?
I think it seems like a simple answer, but it's also kind of complicated. I guess if you're a Star Wars fan, which we are, you know what it means. It would just, I guess it's kind of simple. Like, it has to feel like a Star Wars movie again.
Yeah.
That was one of, obviously many, but one of my biggest complaints about The Last Jedi was it just didn't feel like at any time, with the exception of the opening credits, that I was watching a Star Wars movie, and it just felt so out of place, and not even the choices that were made that were, in my opinion, awful, but just the overall feel of the movie did not feel like a Star Wars movie. All the humor that was in it seemed like just something it just felt like a skit. Like, it just, everything was off about it, and it didn't feel Star Wars to me. So yeah. I think that's first and foremost, is it has to feel like a Star Wars movie again.
Yeah. The Force Awakens, actually, I thought that it did capture that feel, but The Last Jedi felt more like Good Luck Charlie in space. It just, right. It didn't, they were trying the forced humor. It just didn't. I think you're right on about that. It has to feel like a Star Wars movie again. And I mentioned this about 2 weeks ago on the Chiller Night pre-show that I do on Saturday nights. I mentioned what I think could fix this, the Rise of Skywalker, for me, and even to the point. Now, this is a drastic statement coming from me, because everybody who knows me knows that I detested The Last Jedi. I mean, I see nothing redeemable about it, except, and maybe they'll think of a more clever way if they get new writers, which I'm sure they did with J.J. Abrams, right?
Right.
Okay, so I know he's directing it. I didn't know if he wrote it, but there's a series on television called I think this was called Rebels. And I don't watch it, but I do know it's an animated series. And they had an episode in there, or maybe several, that dealt with this thing called the world between worlds. I think. Is there an echo here, Nate?
No, I'm good. I can hear it.
Okay. Are you watching this on your end?
Nope.
Okay. All right. I'm just getting a little bit of an echo. I wasn't sure what that was from. But anyways, the world between worlds. They introduced the idea of this Jedi temple. I think if I'm chopping this up, and that could very well be possible because I don't watch that show, but I've been watching on YouTube over the last year or so. there's this temple where the characters were walking through, and they were seeing these doorways open to different timelines within the Star Wars universe. They were hearing voices from the future, which are the movies that we saw, because this takes place before A New Hope. And they were actually seeing. The character was actually able to see and hear things that were taking place in the past, present, and future. Now, the only thing that I think it would be really interesting if they could just introduce that, even however briefly, and have a character walk past and see some of the key scenes from some of the expanded universe storylines, like Heir to the Empire, the Timothy Zahn trilogy novels, maybe Dark Empire, or some of them that show that the characters and the storylines that the fans have developed and loved for the last 30-some years before Disney bought Lucasfilm and said, okay, none of those matter now. They didn't happen in our storyline. I think if they did that and told us that that was just one possible timeline that we're witnessing, I could kind of wrap my mind around that. I could kind of get on board with that idea. That The Last Jedi, sure, it happened in that timeline, but there's also other possibilities. So that's what would make it okay for me.
Well, yeah, and I think also just in general, that idea of kind of saying like it happened, but it didn't matter. You see so many people that love The Last Jedi, and they're already saying, oh, if, The Rise of Skywalker makes it where, Rey's parents are, like, she's a Skywalker somehow, or something or other, and, they're already ready to be like, that's going to be horrible, and I won't support that. And what I always want to say to them is, like, listen, we had The Force Awakens, and then Rian Johnson came along with The Last Jedi, and he literally threw everything that they did for The Force Awakens out the window.
Yeah.
So if you're okay with that, then you have to be okay with JJ coming back and saying, you know what, we're going to do the same thing with The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
We're going to throw everything that we didn't like that they did out the window, and we're going to do it right.
It's just a bad dream, a bad Force vision.
Right.
Please let that happen. I don't know. Hopefully they do really listen to at least a majority, or half, if not a majority of the fans, and do something. And if you did like that movie, and the viewers did like that movie, more power to you. Then all the better. But obviously a lot of people didn't. But what was the first Star Wars movie that you actually saw when you were a kid at the theater?
It would probably have been, I want to say it was Return of the Jedi, whenever they brought them back in theaters, I don't remember the anniversary of the trilogy, but they did that thing where it was like every couple months they brought a new one.
Yeah, in '97 they started doing that again for the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would have, I'm pretty sure it was Return of the Jedi, and obviously I had already seen the movies, countless times on video, on VHS, but that was the first one that I saw in theaters.
And out of all the Star Wars movies so far, I got to ask you, what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
I would probably say either A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. For some reason, it's always between those two.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I'd probably lean a little bit more toward Empire.
Yeah.
But yeah. I totally agree. Let me see some of these comments here. Real quick. Brad says, like I said, it better be better than episode 8. Okay. Andrew says, what's up, Nate Ragon? And Andrew says, I'm here for Nate Ragon. Okay.
Nice,
Good deal.
Nice.
Yeah. And, hopefully you like Star Wars, too, Andrew. But Corpus said, Okay, oops. Now it's moving along. I can't. Wow. Okay, these comments are bumping. Okay. Do you usually have Star Wars marathons on May 4th every year? I don't. I don't know. Do you, Nate?
No, I mean, it might be something that I did when I was younger. I'm sure, back when there was only like 3 movies. Then it got a little bit harder when we had 6 movies, and now we're about to have 9. Well, I guess 11 if you count, kind of the spin-offs. So I guess it gets a little bit harder. So no.
Speaking of the spin-offs, did you enjoy Rogue One?
I did, yeah.
I love that movie. I loved it. I thought that I had a lot of hope for the direction of Star Wars under Disney's new Lucasfilm, and I think a lot of people did. Even the Force Awakens, it wasn't a great movie as far as storyline. It was pretty much borrowed from A New Hope, but still it had, like you had brought up, had that feel. It had something about it that felt like Star Wars. And when I remember thinking this when I was a kid. I was thinking it would be so cool if they did a Star Wars movie and maybe a little bit more serious tone to it, and it felt more like a war movie. I always wanted to see something like that done, even as a little kid. I always thought that with Star Wars, the dogfight at the end, the X-wings and the TIE fighters, sort of gave you that World War II aerial dogfight type of look and feel. I thought, well, wouldn't that be kind of neat if they did it? And I think Rogue One was the answer to that. I really, I felt like that was a World War II movie in space.
Right.
I loved it.
And that worked for it, I thought, because, I guess someone could make the argument, well, it didn't really feel like a Star Wars movie. Well, it wasn't, it didn't need to feel like an episode, so to speak. It just... It's a completely different movie with a completely different style that happens to take place in the Star Wars universe, and that's okay. Yeah. It worked for that movie. So, yeah, I did really enjoy that movie.
Now, Corpus said, I'm not saying they were successful, but I think that they were trying to raise everything and create a new legend. And I understand that, but here's where I disagree with the method in which the approach they took. Is, okay, now Cobra Kai just came out, and I know that we made this comparison last year at this time, and appropriately so, because they're able to take characters from 30 plus years ago, and now get this, I found myself being getting involved with the new characters that they were introducing, Miguel and Hawk. And
you're adults. You're identifying with these kids.
The new kids, and I was actually, I was actually enjoying the story, even with the kids. And I never thought that was going to happen. They balanced it so well between the old characters that you knew and loved and were cheering for or rooting against back then, and the new ones coming up. I really think that was a perfect balance. And not only that, but they Rey, for example, the main character of this new trilogy, after The Last Jedi, I didn't care. There was nothing that they were doing that was making her interesting, because I didn't see a character arc. I didn't see I didn't see development. It was just boom. Okay, the most powerful character. There was no explanation as to her. We didn't get to see her grow as a character.
Right.
It was just, the Force was downloaded like an app, and and then boom, there it is. At least with so I understand what Corpus is saying. I personally didn't care for the approach that they took. But I do feel that if they were going to continue the storylines, of course they would have to do that. They have to introduce new characters, but the key is they got to make you want to care for these characters too. You know what I mean? So
right.
I didn't think they pulled. I thought that could have been done after The Force Awakens, because I was actually thinking, okay, explain to me how Rey was able to beat Kylo Ren. Like, I was actually wanting to hear this. Like,
right.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat, thinking, okay, they're going to have a really good explanation for this. And like, oh no, girl power or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah, she's just awesome.
no, that's not enough. I like Princess Leia was one of the original strong female characters that I can remember as a child growing up. So, that's interesting.
Right.
But the approach that they took with her, there was no character development, and there was no reason for that. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I understand what Corpus is saying, but I don't. I thought they could have done a much better job. Andrew says Oscar Isaac crushes it in both so far. Oh, okay. What do you think about that? The guy who plays Poe. I think the actors are doing good from what they're being told. I heard this thing about actors being criticized, and they didn't like the characters, they didn't like this and that. Some of the people, and I think that was probably over inflated some of those stories. Just to make a story, to almost victimize some of the actors. So us against them, and if they're victims, then the people doing it are the bad people. They're bad, you're good. It was just a little. It was almost like a political campaign type of strategy in a way. But I thought, oh my gosh, these actors did a great job. There's nobody on these movies who did a bad job. They were doing what they were told to do.
Right.
And using their craft to do it. But I don't know. That we shall see. We shall see what the Rise of Skywalker has to present to us. Corpus says, I agree that she is brought in very quickly. No, we're speaking about Rey to play devil's advocate. That's totally what the first Star Wars was like too, in its way. All the characters were new and pushed forward. They were. But we got to see Luke as the farm boy on Tatooine, and he ends up in this, saving the rebellion in this battle. How he goes from being the farm boy to the hero at the end. To me, the other characters were already established, but even like Han Solo, the scoundrel, the rogue, the mercenary.
Right.
What's he have at the end?
It's also told. Very early on in A New Hope, like that Luke's father was a Jedi.
Yeah.
So you already have that link almost immediately, and not in the beginning of the movie, but almost immediately after the character's introduced, you're almost immediately told that, hey, Luke, his father, he's the son of a Jedi. So that right there, while it might not be like, hours of setup to show you how he gets to that point, at least you have a reason established as to why he might end up becoming, such a heroic and amazing character with these skills. But even then, being the son of a Jedi, he struggled through the training on the Millennium Falcon, and there was just, he really doesn't become, like, go full circle until Return of the Jedi.
Right. And even with that, with what Corpus is saying, what you're saying, I was actually ready to accept Rey as this character from The Force Awakens. I was ready to accept her being strong in the Force because we were going to learn who her parents were and all this and that. Or I was thinking maybe it was either Luke, or Ben Kenobi, somebody maybe guiding her. So like I was still intrigued at this point, and I could see I wasn't turned off by The Force Awakens with her abilities at the end of the movie. I wasn't turned off by that. It was only until The Last Jedi when everything was just discarded, and none of it made sense to the viewers, and that was my problem, a big problem. So Brad says, I'm sorry, but I can't get over the fact when Luke Skywalker threw his lightsaber over his right shoulder like that. Unbelievable.
Exactly. That was my first sign watching this movie that something was off and something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I don't think in the way they intended. I wasn't feeling like, boy, there's something really off about Luke. I wonder what's going on. It was just like, what's happening in this movie right now? Like, what am I watching?
Yeah, that was like what Disney did with the whole Star Wars storyline. It was very representative in a way. If you look at it
Right.
like that, just take Star Wars, take the franchise and toss it, give it a good toss.
You could almost remove Luke Skywalker from that scene and put like Ryan Johnson in his place and have like JJ handing him like
Yeah.
here's the script for the Force Awakens so you know what the storyline should be like, and he
Yes.
just throws it over the cliff and it's like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. Now remember, Ryan, this is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and you have decades of people and several generations who hold this up with high reverence. Please do a good job. Be careful with this. Sure.
Right.
Where's the nearest cliff? But anyways, what about? I'll tell you what. We got about 4 minutes left till I roll the credits at the end of this. We're gonna, after the credits, you and I will still continue to talk, because this is the we have two versions, viewers. If you don't know, we have the Stream TV version, which is 30 minutes, and we have the YouTube, which can go on a lot longer than that. But maybe I'll save that. No, Solo. What do you think of Solo? Did you like that one?
Yeah, I did. I don't know. I didn't like it as much as Rogue One, but I felt like obviously after the horrible taste that was left in my mouth after seeing The Last Jedi, that Solo, while it wasn't like amazing, I was kind of like, okay, like at least I enjoyed watching this movie. Like,
Yeah.
there's issues with it, and it was really silly, but I don't know. I enjoyed watching it. Is about the best I can say about it.
I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I thought it was a fun movie. I enjoyed seeing a young Han Solo and Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian. I enjoyed that. In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing more of those. Just
Right.
because I loved when after Star Wars and the Empire came out, had the books. I had the Han Solo books. I had the Lando Calrissian books. I was when they said they were going to do a Star Wars or a Solo movie, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But what happened, unfortunately, is people like myself and many, many, many others didn't see Solo because they were so turned off by The Last Jedi. Unfortunately, Solo paid a big price for that,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
Lucasfilm was to pay the price for that, because people were not going to give them their money. They wanted to send a message, and that's not my opinion. That's actually what happened with
Right.
a lot of people refused to give Lucasfilm their money, and Solo was on the bad end of that, because I thought it was an enjoyable, entertaining movie. I would
Right.
watch another one of those. I waited for that to come out on Netflix. I wasn't going to pay for it, I already had Netflix, so but yeah, that's a shame, because it was an enjoyable movie. I thought it was entertaining. And unfortunately, the movie that came before it, I think, had a lot to do with that movie bombing. At least profit-wise at the box office.
Right, and it's so funny to say like a movie that made because that movie made a ton of money, but it's
Yeah.
like for a Star Wars movie to not make like $500 million, it bombed. It's
Right,
just-
right. Because you're taking in, and don't take it from me, folks, because I'm really chopping this up, these facts. There are tons and tons of videos on YouTube and stuff explaining. And I'm no financial expert. I don't know, but they're explained after hearing from numerous sites. The explanation of how much went into the movie, how much was anticipated overseas, how much actually went into marketing the movie that didn't go into what you're seeing. It was the first Star Wars movie that bombed, at the box office, and yeah, that's hard to imagine. But let me run these end credits real quick, and then we'll jump back on here, Nate. So, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. If you're watching this on TV, thank you for joining us. If you want to see the episode in its entirety, hop on to Chiller Night Theater's YouTube channel. and we'll see you later. Thanks again.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?
Oh, jeez.